Joining the meeting.
Dr. Gordon Chavez. Good morning.
Good morning. We will start shortly.
Joining the meeting.
Sid Kitson. Hello?
Welcome. Our meeting will begin shortly.
Joining the meeting.
Thank you.
Dr. Gordon Chavez. Good morning.
Good morning.
Is this Greg?
Okay, everyone, if we're ready to convene, we'll kick things off. On behalf of the Board of Trustees of the University of Central Florida, I'd like to welcome all of you and thank you for volunteering your time to this extremely important committee. My name is Dave Walsh. I'm a member of the UCF Board of Trustees and very privileged to be chosen as chairman of the Presidential Search Committee. My trustee colleague, Bev Say, sitting to my left, is our vice chair. And again, a great privilege to be here today calling this meeting to order. As a reminder, the meeting is governed by Florida sunshine laws and is open to the public and to members of the media. In fact, we're broadcasting this meeting live at UCF's Presidential Search website. So let's all sit up straight. We're on camera. So at this point, Laura Stilianu, will you please call the roll to ensure a quorum?
Thank you. Search Chairman David Walsh.
Present?
Search Vice Chair Beverly C.
Here.
Ms. Christina Barreto.
Here.
Ms. Sarah Bernard.
Here.
Dr. Gordon Chavez.
Present.
Dr. Manoj Chopra.
Present.
Mayor Buddy Dyer.
Here.
The Honorable Sidney Kitson.
Here.
Mr. Michael Manglardi.
Here.
Mr. Ken Robinson.
Here.
The Honorable Conrad Santiago.
Here.
The Honorable Rick Walsh.
Here.
Dr. Linda Walters.
Here.
Dr. Felicia Williams.
Present.
Trustee William Yergin.
Here.
Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Laura, and thank you for your hard work in preparing the committee for this first meeting. We're very privileged to have you on our team. And in that this is our first meeting, I think it appropriate that we spend a few minutes introducing ourselves, both those in the room and those on the phone. So if we could begin with that, perhaps Gordon, maybe a little bit about your affiliation with the university and some words of introduction.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. My name is Dr. Gordon Chavez. I'm the Associate Vice President for Enrollment Services in the Division of Student Development and Enrollment Services, and I am honored to be a member of the Presidential Search Committee.
Thank you. Sid?
My name is Sid Kitson. I am incoming vice chair of the Board of Governors. And I'm a real estate developer in the state of Florida. We are probably best known for Babcock Ranch, a new sustainable community that we're constructing in Southwest Florida. And I am also very, very honored to be a part of this and look forward to working with all of you. And apologize for not being there today, but I will be present at all future meetings. Thank you.
And Conrad?
Yes, Conrad Santiago here, and I'm a former trustee of a university. I also was involved in the development of the strategic plan that was just done recently, co-chairing the Value Commission, and I'm a financial advisor with Ameriprise Financial Services here in Orlando, and it's a privilege as well to be able to serve in this committee.
Okay, thank you, guys. And Vice Chair Say, if you'll similarly introduce yourself, and then we'll just move around the table.
Sure. Board of Trustees for UCF. I chair the College Engineering and Computer Science Industry Board as well.
I'm Christina Barreto, the Student Body Vice President, and I'm honored to serve as the student representative.
I'm Rick Walsh. I'm retired.
I'm Manoj Chopra, a professor of engineering, also the UCF NCAA faculty athletics rep, and I've had the privilege of representing the faculty on our Board of Trustees and the State Board of Governors.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Sarah Bernard. I'm an attorney at Braun & Cassell. I practice in the area of land development. I am the UCF Alumni Board Chair, and I also serve on the UCF Foundation.
Good morning. I'm Mike Manglardi, partner at Marchena's Manglardi Law Firm. I'm a 1984 graduate of UCF and proud to have two children who have since graduated from UCF, a third son currently here as a sophomore doing well in engineering, and a fourth son, if all works right, will start in the fall. He's been accepted, but he's looking at another school up a couple hours north of here, so we're debating. So happy to be serving.
We'll help you, Mike.
Good morning, I'm Bill Yergin. I'm CEO of Correct Craft, a longtime Central Florida company. I'm honored to also serve on the Board of Trustees of UCF and honored to serve on this search committee. Thank you.
Good morning, I'm Felicia Williams. I'm the campus president at Valencia College for our West Campus and our downtown campus, and I also serve on the UCF Valencia Collaboration Council, and I'm an alum.
Buddy Dyer, good morning. I'm the mayor of Orlando, and I've been mayor since 2003.
Hi, everybody. My name's Linda Walters. I am a Pegasus professor in the biology department. I'm also the director of the Center for Success for Women Faculty at UCF, and I've been a faculty member for 20 years now.
Good morning. Ken Robinson. I'm president of Dr. Phillips Charities and here representing the community at large and Dr. Phillips and our 50-year relationship with UCF.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Colleagues, you might feel as I do right now, honored to be serving on this committee. Dr. Hitt has transformed UCF into the institution it is today, and finding the next visionary leader is a monumental responsibility for all of us. It is indeed a privilege. Continuation of the marvelous journey that Dr. Hitt has set forth for us didn't really allow for any retirement time in our deliberations in respect to the fact that the continuation of growth here remains enormous. The number of initiatives we've got underway, very daunting and challenging, even as we're working through this process. So his tenure has blessed us with enormous growth, development, and expansion, even as we're sitting here today. To mention a few, the teaching hospital is approved moving forward. The Ignite campaign, which we're endeavoring to raise $500 million for the university, is well underway, and through a good stage of completion, and as well the downtown campus. We've just initiated the groundbreaking of that just a few months ago. So we've got an enormity of growth activities before us, even while we deliberate, which I think will assure that we keep the pace on a very convicted basis of what we do. Truly a marvelous journey Dr. Hitt has taken us on. We want to continue that. Because of his efforts, this search will now take on national attention and interest very clearly. The UCF presidency is not only important regionally, but statewide, and now, due to his great efforts and accomplishments nationally. So I know that each of us will do our level best to assure the search attracts outstanding candidates and will be conducted in a transparent fashion, including opportunities for input and feedback from the entire university and Central Florida communities. So once again, thanks in advance for your service to UCF. I'd now like to invite Board of Trustees Chairman Marcos Marchena to deliver a charge to the board and to the committee.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Walsh. Good morning, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here with you this morning for a few minutes to talk about the process of what we are together going to be doing over the next several months. Before we get to the serious business, though, I was thinking about everyone involved in this committee, and I know everyone understands who's here in this room, and probably 2 of the 3 people who are on the phone understands that around here, when somebody says go Knights, the response is charge on. Governor Kitson, I just wanted to make sure that we give you appropriate training before you embark on this assignment, and I want to make sure you also understand that anytime you're challenged with a go Knights, the proper response is charge on. So I don't want you to be caught off guard, sir.
I am duly noted. At least it's not Go Deeks, which is for my alma mater. So I'm all set.
All right, appreciate that. You know, it's not hyperbole to say that this committee's work represents one of the most important tasks UCF has ever faced. You're looking for someone who can stand on the shoulders of a giant and not only reach for the stars, but actually catch one. No pressure at all. We achieved that goal by staying true to UCF's culture. Many characteristics define UCF and our culture: innovation, diversity, and partnerships. But one stands out most critical, at least in my mind, and that is inclusivity. Only an inclusive search will produce the best results and ensure UCF's momentum continues. That is why this committee is so important. You represent our students, faculty, staff, alumni, supporters, and community partners, all crucial to what makes UCF great. As I look around this room, I'm heartened to see so many leaders who care about UCF, who care about our students, who care about our community. It is because of you that this search will succeed, allowing UCF's trajectory to continue, as our alma mater says, ever upward in our flight. Thank you for bringing all of your wisdom, expertise, insight, and passion to UCF and this committee. On behalf of the Board of Trustees, we appreciate your commitment. Before turning the meeting back to Chair Walsh, there are two items in your packet that I want to briefly address: the charge to the committee and the presidential leadership statement. Let me start by thanking Chairman Emeritus Rick Walsh and Trustee Emeritus Conrad Santiago. Your previous work on the board laid the foundation for this search process. This is not something we woke up a couple of weeks ago and said, how are we going to do this? It's been thought about for many, many years and updated from time to time. The first document in your charge is from the Board of Trustees. It outlines your responsibilities. Let me mention a few that I think are critical. The first one is to recommend to the chairman, to me in this case, an unranked short list of 3 search firms. You should have received already the responses to the RFP. Hopefully by the end of this meeting, you'll deliberate and shortlist the firms that submitted to 3. Send them to me under the Board of Trustees regulations. I will then do whatever additional analysis I think is necessary and make a selection from those 3. I hope to have that selection made by the end of this Wednesday so that the selected firm will have adequate time to prepare before we get together or you get together with them again on December 4th. Second is to ensure that the search follows the Florida Board of Governors process for selecting presidents. I was kidding Governor Kitchener earlier, but I do want to thank you, Governor, for agreeing to represent the governors on this committee, and we look forward very much to your wisdom and participation in this process. Your third task will be to interview candidates and then to recommend an unranked list between 3 and 5 finalists to the Board of Trustees. In this area, I want to highlight that there's no need to push to narrow down to 3. If you think that there's a natural break at 4, then send us 4. If you think there's a natural break at 5, then send us 5. I also want to be clear that the short list that you send us is also to be unranked. And it should come with an open mind. It should be individuals that you believe any one of them could do a great job as president of UCF. Don't send it to us with a wink and a nod of, here are 3, but we really like this one. We want you to do your job, and then the Board of Trustees will do its job. Finally, we would like for you to proceed in a timely fashion so that a new president can be named no later than June 30th, which is the end of Dr. Hitt's current contract period. Now, keep in mind that after you send your recommendation to the Board of Trustees, we will need enough time to hold campus forums for each of the candidates. We want to have input from faculty, from others in the administration, from staff, from students before those candidates come to be interviewed by the Board of Trustees. And then, of course, once the Board of Trustees makes the actual selection, we still need time for that candidate to appear before the Board of Governors for confirmation. So taking all of that into account, I suspect you're probably going to be wanting to make your recommendation perhaps as early as March, but we'll see. I'm sure we'll get some guidance from the search firm once we choose one and have them under contract. I was told earlier that when Dr. Hitt was selected, the process took about 4 months, so it can be done with great success. So I'm hoping that we will move expeditiously to be able to get to that point. The second item I wish to discuss with you today is the Presidential Leadership Statement. The statement was updated and approved earlier this year by the Board of Trustees. As I said earlier, it was created a number of years back. I believe Chair Walsh was then chair at the time that it was initially created. It is a product of extensive consideration. As all the trustees on the board know, we believe that approving this document was the most critical aspect of being ready for a presidential search. As you read it, you will see the leadership characteristics outlined, and they are what the Board of Trustees believes represent those most important to a new president. I encourage you to review them and use them as your guide during your search. I will be happy to answer questions that any of you may have regarding those characteristics, either those that are included or why perhaps some are not included. And if I can't, then I'm sure Chair Walsh or Trustee Santiago can enlighten us. If you have recommendations you wish to make regarding characteristics that you think perhaps should be included but are not, have discussions among yourselves here at this meeting. Bring your recommendation to the next Board of Trustees through Chair Walsh, and we will take them up for discussion and a vote. I've been asked several times what is the most important characteristic in the list that I find, and I immediately jump to integrity, and then I jump to the need for understanding the importance of educating undergraduate students, and then I jump to the importance of research, and then I jump to the importance of partnerships, and I finally came to the realization that they're all important. It is the full package that we're looking for. And I hope you keep that in mind as we move forward. So once again, thank you very much for your service on this committee. As your charge says, the future of the university rests upon your wisdom, but again, no pressure at all. Thank you very much for the opportunity to talk with you this morning. I wish you great success, and I'm happy to answer any questions anyone may have. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Now we're very pleased to have Nancy Myers with us this morning. She's the Director of the Office of Institutional Equity at UCF. Nancy's going to review with us our equal opportunity employment guidelines along with other aspects of an open search.
Great. Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for having me here with you today. It's a pleasure to be with you all on this very important search. I'm going to spend a few minutes talking with all of you about diversity and inclusion and how that factors into a search when you're conducting it, as well as implicit bias and how that may impact a search and how to avoid that coming into play in this search. So as Chairman Marchena mentioned, diversity and inclusion is an important part of the culture here at UCF. It's part of our mission, it's part of our strategic initiatives, and it's part of our search process. You'll see in the leadership statement that we refer to this, and you'll see it in any of our employment documentation here at the university. We talk about being an equal opportunity employer. And what that means is that when we conduct searches and we review candidates' qualifications, we do it in a fair and careful way. And specifically, we do it in a consistent way, and we make sure that the information we're looking at and the qualifications that we're assessing are job-related. Is the information we're seeking connected to a qualification? Is it actually connected to what we're looking for in a candidate to be successful in the position they will have? And one of the ways we work inclusion and diversity into our search is to have very strong recruitment efforts. And that isn't just looking at gender or race or age. That's looking at the entire background and experiences, particularly for a position like this. We're looking at a diverse background, diverse experiences, and what can they bring to the university, and how can they unify our university. And our process itself needs to be consistent. That means the approach we utilize in terms of interviewing here on campus, or who they speak with when they're here on campus, how they connect with the university membership when they're on campus. That looks the same for all the candidates, because only then are you being consistent and not having a possible opportunity for bias or a disadvantage working into the process. And when you're assessing and making a decision, you're also utilizing that same consistent standard. How you weigh one person's qualifications is how you should be weighing all the candidates. An example I give for some of the searches, if you give 2 years of experience credit to someone for an internship, well, then everyone that had an internship gets those 2 years. And that should be across the board for any of the qualifications you're looking at. When you're asking questions, certainly you don't have to have a word-by-word script. You should have a script, but you can go off that script a bit to develop an answer. But your structure overall should look the same for your candidates. Because again, you're looking at the qualifications for this position, and you're focusing your discussions with them on a consistent basis with each candidate. So that way you can actually assess, when you get to decision-making time, whether that person in fact qualifies for what you're looking for. At UCF, we have what's called a right of inclusion. And what this means is when you're in the decision-making process, the committee can vote on a number of candidates that will move forward in the process. If when you're looking at that list of individuals that have moved forward, you think someone is missing, you think the committee maybe didn't assess someone's qualifications or didn't give them enough credit, you can ask for a right of inclusion. And what that does is it's requesting your fellow committee members to take another look. And what that prompts is to pull that candidate's qualifications forward and walk through each of the qualifications and why you think that person met them and why the other committee members maybe think did not meet those qualifications. So this is another opportunity to make sure that we are doing an overall consistent approach in making sure that we're weighing each of those factors consistently. It's recommended that you utilize this for one candidate for each round. So it's not something to keep using over and over and over again, but it is a tool for you as a search committee member to utilize. Selection bias avoidance. We are all human. We all come here with our experiences, and we may have biases. And it's called an implicit bias or an unconscious bias. And that means it's something we're not intentionally doing. We're not intentionally coming in to treat someone differently, but our experiences form some stereotypes or preferences or perceptions we may have about individuals because of those experiences we've had. So it's very important when you're going through a search process is to make sure those unconscious biases are not impacting your decision making. So how can you do that? It's unconscious. You're not aware of it, right? Well, the first thing to do is test yourself. Become aware of what biases you may in fact have, because then you can be mindful of how that's impacting your decision making. We recommend the Harvard Implicit Associate Test. It takes about 10 minutes. You can look for age, disability, race, gender. It takes about 10 minutes to go through it. It's a relatively easy test, but it can be very illuminating to individuals. Again, it's not because you're intentionally looking to treat people differently. Your life experiences just may impact how you make decisions. And the other is echoing what I've been saying so far, evaluating every resume, every candidate, every interview process the same way. utilizing the same standard, having structure to how you approach the candidates, how you assess the candidates, and doing that from beginning until the very end of the process. And refrain from prematurely drawing conclusions. It's normal to look at a resume or meet a candidate for the first 5 minutes and start to think, wow, this person is perfect. Try not to do that. Refrain from doing that. Go through the entire process before you actually make decisions about whether this person is qualified and would do this job well. So in addition to myself, my office, the Office of Institutional Equity, we're always happy to assist with any search questions, any search process. Obviously, you have Scott Cole here, available from the Office of General Counsel to answer questions, and Department of Human Resources. We work collaboratively on all search processes and are always ready to assist. We've also included some resources that you might find helpful, starting with the Board of Governors regulation and all the way through our presidential search screening processes and guidelines that we have here at the university. And of course, the last one that is highlighted is our non-discrimination policy, which of course prohibits any type of decision-making being impacted by protected classes. So if any questions for the committee, I'm happy to answer them at this time or come back if you need me at any point. Great, thank you all, and I wish you all the best of luck. Thank you.
Nancy, thank you. One of our action items today as a committee will be to look at the and vote on the survey of presidential compensation. So in terms of describing that process and where we are on that important duty, I'd like to introduce Scott Cole, our Vice President and General Counsel at UCF. Scott.
Good morning, everyone. I have bad news and good news. The bad news is we're not looking to see what your compensation will be. The good news is we are doubling your current compensation for serving on this committee, so no need to thank us. The process, the presidential selection process, requires that we update the most recent compensation data for our current president, John Hitt, in anticipation of the hiring of our new president. Now, traditionally, what we have done through our Labor and Compensation Committee is every 3 years we have a comprehensive study done of the president, including compensation, by an outside firm. And then annually we have our HR department do a compensation study to determine whether additional changes are needed to be made. So the first decision for this committee is whether we should go to an outside firm to assess what reasonable compensation should be for the new president, or we should rely on our HR department to do that. I can tell you that in both circumstances, both the outside firms and the internal HR department essentially use the same data. Most compensation data is publicly available, and so our internal folks feel confident that they can do a good assessment using both national data and state of Florida data. So it's really a matter of preference. Again, I think they're both competent, but if there are reasons that we'd want to have an external party look at this, we can certainly do that. If you're comfortable with HR, we can go that way as well. So take any thoughts?
Is there a cost associated with hiring an external?
There will be, yes.
Any idea what that cost might be?
I would guess probably in the $30,000 range. I'm hearing anybody has a strong feeling we should go with an outside consultant?
I have a slight bias towards the outside consultant. I think just to have an outsider look at it, I'm fully comfortable with our team internally, but a slight bias towards going with an outside consultant.
I would also agree with that. I think the internal team could probably do a fantastic job, but having third-party validation is always very, very helpful in these situations.
If I might also introduce the thought, we have laid out before us a really momentous responsibility and duty now of a national character, given the significance of the role now regionally and nationally. I probably would weigh on the side of updating and allowing a process of an independent compensation review. There would also be the concern that the Human Resource Department ultimately reports to the same person being evaluated, ultimately, therefore, the most mild conflict might exist. Therefore, it could be most prudent to look at, in my own opinion, an outside firm, reaffirming where we are on the compensation range. But certainly other thoughts are more than welcome.
I agree with the chairman and Bill Yergin. My only question is on timing to get the outside study. Marcus Marchena outlined an aggressive timeline that we certainly want to achieve and stay within. Does that put us behind in any respect or disadvantage us in any respect to get that outside study done?
Well, I suspect we could probably get it done in about 4 to 6 weeks. The compensation data will not only be important in terms of reaching an agreement with the final candidate, but it will probably be part of the decision-making of those who are interested in the position. So the earlier we get it, the better, of course. But I think with 4 to 6 weeks, we'd probably still be in a position to have that information available to candidates.
When was the last time that we've actually used an external?
It's been 2 years since I know last year we did it internally, so it's I think it's 2 years since we've done a full.
How close was our internal review or audit compared to that outside consultant?
They're typically, again, they're using the same data, so they typically are very close.
How long would it take us internally to do this?
I think internally they would go to whatever schedule, meet any schedule that we were to give them. They could do it pretty quickly. It'd be a high priority, I think, in their office.
How often do you generally go outside for an outside consultant?
Every 3 years.
So we're coming up on that anyhow, aren't we? And isn't there a presumption that protects the university as well as the candidate once the salary is established by an outside consultant?
I think there's always some benefit to having a third party look at it, yeah.
Vice Chairman, did you have a?
No, I was going to ask about the differential. So I think that for protection, that it would be good to have the outside internal process operate consistent or, in conjunction with it.
Well, and I would agree, especially in light of the fact that we're coming up to one of those every 3-year type reviews anyway, so.
So maybe this can bypass that or start the 3 years over and save you money.
There you go.
Mr. Cole, do you have a firm arranged, or is there a firm that typically does this for the university?
We have, yes, we use a particular firm. We can certainly go out with a very short request for firms if the committee would like to do that. But we have one we've used in the past, yes.
Mr. Chairman, since we have now a new leadership statement and some of the duties may be beyond what the current president does, it may be a good idea for us to do an external evaluation as well.
Very valuable input. If there are no more questions about the matter, if someone is prepared to make a motion to move forward with the selection of an outside firm to do a thorough, updated compensation review, we'll hear such a motion.
So moved.
Second. Are there any other questions or observations on the matter?
Just for clarification on the motion, was the motion to use the firm that we've been using or to do an RFP of some sort?
To use an outside firm, but not constructing the method of selecting, which we could add to it if the committee so chooses, more broad.
I just had concern. It seems like you've had good experience with the guys you're using, and adding more time by doing an RFP might not be the wisest thing to do.
Would definitely affect the timeline, yeah.
We're probably, Vice President Cole, realistically going to be under the monetary value that would require an RFP. So in all likelihood, we would not be required to have an RFP at the small monetary level we're talking about.
The last time you utilized the firm, you were satisfied with their work, their time frame, and the results.
And certainly their qualifications, national prominence.
Yes, we use a national firm, yes. And don't ask me the name because I'm absolutely drawing a blank. but they're very good, very thorough.
So perhaps the motion would be to select an outside firm at the recommendation of the university to move, to rephrase the motion. So, I think
So moved.
Second.
okay, with that, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign? Okay, the motion to use an outside firm for the compensation review has been, as ultimately advised by the university, has been approved.
Very good.
Thank you, Scott.
The next topic I want to talk about is the Sunshine Law and the Open Records Law. Many of you are very familiar with that, and those of you who are know that Florida has the broadest open meetings and open records law in the country. As to the meetings law, the law states that any board or commission, which would include committees who have decision-making functions, are subject to that law. And that means that any discussion between two or more members of this committee concerning matters that could foreseeably come before the committee for action can only take place in the meeting. So there cannot be any discussions among you outside of these public meetings when it comes to the business of the committee. Certainly you're free to discuss other items among yourselves, but as to those matters that would require a decision by the committee, it can only be discussed in these public meetings. Also, the law does not prohibit a meeting or discussion between a committee member and a non-committee member, for example, staff. So any of the committee members are free to talk to the staff about any issue that could be related to the committee, and that would not create a Sunshine Law issue. The one caveat to that is that staff members cannot be used as conduits between committee members, so we can't carry messages from one committee member to the other, and what does she think and what does he think, but we certainly are available for individual conversations. The Sunshine Law requires that every meeting gives the public reasonable notice and that minutes be taken at each of the meetings. Reasonable notice is not defined in the statute, but we're planning out a very detailed schedule for the committee, so I don't think we'll have any notice issues. In a case of an emergency meeting, typically 24 hours is sufficient in that situation, so we should be fine. Any member of the public has the right to attend a public meeting. They do not have the right to speak under the terms of the Sunshine Law, but they have the right to attend. There is a recent statute which requires that the Board of Trustees allow public comment at every meeting. That law has not been interpreted to require that committees also allow public comment. You're free as a body, if you choose to allow at any point the public to comment, you can do that, but it's not an obligation. So that's something the committee can discuss and decide in any particular meeting if they want to do that. And then finally, if an agenda is prepared, it must be posted along with a notice of the meeting, but you're not required to stick to the agenda. So if something comes up in the middle of the meeting, you're allowed to address that topic even though it's not on the agenda. Okay, let's talk about the Public Records Law. So under the Public Records Law, any member of the public is entitled to inspect a public record maintained by the university. A public record is any document which was created or received in connection with the transaction of university business. So most records that are generated in connection with the search process will be public records if they were sent or received by the university, and that includes these committee members. Public records requests do not need to be made in writing. Someone can call up and request a record. They do not have to identify themselves. They don't have to state what the purpose of their request is. We're required to respond. I will tell you that the public record that is requested most by people who do that are emails. And so be very conscious of what you put into your emails, if you send emails at all, because that will for sure be requested at some point during the process. And also, a public record is not defined by the method of transmission, it's defined by the content. And what I mean by that is a public record is a public record regardless of whether it's sent on a public computer or your private computer. And a private record does not become public because it's sent on a public computer. It's the content of the document. Is it relating to university business? Text messages are public records. So be careful about the use of text messages. If you do send a text message relating to public business, it has to be maintained, just like you maintain an email. All public records are subject to a retention schedule by state law. Most public records are required to be held between 3 and 5 years. And here's a very important one. There are a few exemptions to the public records law. The primary one, which will be of use to the committee, is your personal notes are not a public record. And so long as those notes are not circulated among other members of the committee, they're your personal notes, we do not have to produce those notes. So feel free to take notes during this process for your recollection, your use, and those will not become a public record. And that is all I have on those two topics, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Scott, thank you.
Sir.
This particular search, among its other very critical attributes, provides an enormous additional opportunity for the promotion not only of the openness and comprehensive nature of the search itself, but to advance the cause of the university regionally and nationally. So with that in mind, I'd like to introduce Grant Heston, our Vice President of Communications and Marketing, who will provide an overview of the communications and promotions plan around the search. Grant?
Great, thank you. I'd like to start with a story. This story is from a couple years ago. I was at a higher ed conference somewhere around the country, and there was a session on presidential transitions. So I thought, well, that would be interesting to go to. I don't know much about that. And the keynote speaker started off by saying that they had just finished a presidential search, and it was arduous and it was difficult because the outgoing president was beloved, was transformative, was a leader, and he had been there so long, 9 years. And I thought, whoa, we are in for it here at UCF. So much like the Board of Trustees, the Communications and Marketing Division has been preparing for this for a long time. So a lot of what we're going to discuss today is ready to go. What's most important to us is we want to go above and beyond, as Chairman Walsh said. There's a lot of this that we know we have to do. We have to have a website. We want it to be better than it has to be. We know we have to advertise in certain places for the job. We want to do more than just that. And we do see this as an opportunity to tell the UCF story in a way that we haven't done in 26 years. And so we're very excited about the platform that this search gives us to talk about all the great things Dr. Hitt's done, all the wonderful attributes of UCF, and most importantly, what the future holds, the momentum and the trajectory of this university. So I'd like to start with, you have Pegasus Magazine in front of you. It's not quite hot off the presses now, but it's maybe still a little bit warm. And we've noted for you in there, as all magazine publishers know, all the good news happens the day you're supposed to go to print. And this happened the day we were supposed to go to print, so we were able to hold it off for a couple of days and include the coverage of Dr. Hitt's announcement. And as a side note, the day after this, Bill Gates was here. So if you flip a page or two, you'll see we were able to squeeze Bill and Melinda Gates in here too. But that's just going above and beyond and trying to use that to tell the story. On the screen here, one of the first things that we've done is we want to establish, make sure we have a visual identity for the search. And so this is the kind of the word mark that we're going to use, our 5th president. And as you see, it's on the cover of your binders, and this will start to be a part of what we do as a search to let people know that this is a big deal visually. And as I said, we know we're going to have to advertise certain places because we're required to. And that will come later in the process. What we're going to start as early as this week, we're submitting this ad to the Chronicle of Higher Ed that's a little bit of a softer approach to it. It wants to talk about the culture of UCF. You know, at the University of Central Florida, we use the power of scale and the pursuit of excellence to transform lives. We believe success can only happen when we expand opportunity and demand excellence. We believe if there's a better way, we should do it. We believe none of us is smarter than all of us, and we believe making the world a better place is a big job. It requires a big university. It requires UCF. What do you believe? And it's hard to see here, but the link down there goes to the Presidential Search website. So that's not a hard presidential search ad, but it's laying the groundwork for what we expect to be months of these types of things to tell our story that way. So we talked about, this is the homepage right now of ucf.edu. If you look right there at the top, we've got a link to the Presidential Search website. When we are near search committees meetings or events that require it, we'll have the presidential search link right up there at the top. At other times, it'll be a little bit more passive part of the website, but it will always be there through this entire search process. Now we're going to see if we can go live to the search website. This is it. If you scroll down a little bit, you'll see this is really cool. That link takes you to the live broadcast of this meeting. I've been told that if we click on it, there'll be a rip in the space-time continuum as us trying to watch us watch this live. So we're going to be careful not to click on that. But if you keep scrolling down, you'll see a little bit of the introductory language. We have the most important documents. Once we start getting more meetings, as you scroll down a little bit further, we'll have more meetings. We have the search committee. And what I like about this website, as you scroll down just a little bit further, you'll see some of the charge from the chairman. And then you go there to the bottom, you've got it. We'll add and build this out as we go. So the more information we have, the more materials that we have, we'll use this really as a one-stop shop for everything that the search committee needs, so that we truly are. We talk about we want to appear transparent. We will be transparent. We will be open. And everything that we do will be available for anyone who wants to see it and comment upon it and participate in the search, because we know it's so important. And the last piece I want to show is, this is the website again, but before I click to it, the presidential search statement. That's a powerful statement that the Board of Trustees over many years spent a lot of time on. We like the words. We think it speaks to the values here at UCF, but we also said, how can we make this a little bit different? How can we make it resonate more than just words on paper and a PDF? And so I'd like to show you that.
Our next president must have. Our next president must have.
Our next president must have
a strong personal and professional academic background,
a sense of commitment to undergraduate education,
a dedication to and understanding of graduate and professional education and research,
a respect and concern for students,
an appreciation for the significant role of intercollegiate athletics in the life of the university,
an understanding and respect for the roles and responsibilities of the faculty,
a demonstrated record of building, nurturing, and working with a high-caliber leadership team.
Our next president must have
a willingness to make strategic choices, timely decisions, and responsive actions,
a commitment to student success in all areas of the collegiate experience,
a commitment to inclusion and diversity,
a demonstrated record of partnership and spirit of entrepreneurship,
the ability to work with a variety of governmental agencies,
a desire and ability to support access and inclusion,
the ability to acquire resources from a variety of sources, including fundraising,
a keen understanding of our unique mission,
the ability to lead a multi-site metropolitan research university,
and of course,
a
high level of integrity.
We'll start sharing that on social media everywhere today. We envision the search firm being able to use that as part of their recruitment tool. Kind of like the idea of candidates in January seeing palm trees and sunny skies here in Orlando as they're considering us. So that's just one of the ways we want to go above and beyond in how we talk about this. And at a future committee meeting, there is a requirement we will submit our official marketing plan to you for approval. We'll do that in consultation with the search firm once they're on board. Unless there are any questions, thank you for your time.
Brett, thank you. Well, we hope what you all have heard up to this point has impressed upon you the necessity for us to have a thoughtful and inclusive presidential search. Chairman Marchena laid out the stakes very well before us. We have to get this right. We have to do it the right way, with integrity, with openness, with inclusivity. You'll hear these themes again and again throughout the search. Now, we'll use a search firm as to guide us as a consulting partner in creating a thorough and open process, leveraging on hopefully their very vast experience and lessons learned conducting similar searches such as the one we set about to do here. Now, we followed at UCF the applicable procurement guidelines in requesting proposals from 8 national search firms a couple of weeks ago. We've received 6 responses, which were sent to you last week and are also in your binder this morning. Our second task this morning for approval is to evaluate these proposals and make a recommendation to the Chairman Marchena, of 3 search firm recommendations, and he'll make the final selection in accordance with our existing Board of Trustees policy on selection. First, I'll ask Scott Cole to share with us how the initial list of firms was developed and that process. Scott?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman. The search for the search firm was not required under our procurement rules to be subject to a formal RFP process. There's an exception where firms who are already doing business with the state pursuant to a public procurement process are allowed to be directly contracted with. However, we thought it was very important that we reach out to those firms who have expertise in presidential searches and ask them to bid on this project. Mr. Chairman, as you stated, there were 8 firms who received a request to submit information and qualifications. 2 of those firms dropped out. Those firms were chosen through 2 sources. One, there's a website called Higher Education Jobs, and that website is, as you can suspect, it's a place where people who are interested in higher education jobs go. And they publish a list of search firms that do a high volume of university searches. So the first source of finding these firms was that. Second of all, within the past year, Florida International University did a full RFP process for search firms. And so we had the benefit of seeing all of their materials for that, and from that we were able to choose firms who had not just university experience. We were focused in on those that had presidential search experience, because there is a difference between a presidential search and any other search that can take place at a university. So that was the process. 6 firms have then submitted proposals. And Mr. Chairman, did you want me to summarize those, or?
Yeah, I think that would be useful for our education.
So in your materials, there is a chart right before the search firms. So you might want to look at that. We'll be reading off of that. It's a quick summary of each of the firms that submitted. Okay, good. So the first firm considered was Academic Search. They're based out of Washington, D.C. We had requested the number of searches done, presidential searches done in the past 4 years. They had 27. Of those, 17 were state university searches. And by the way, I thought that was relevant because doing a search in the sunshine for a state university as opposed to one completely out of the sunshine for a private university are very different animals. And so I think that was a relevant factor to look at. And then how many state university searches in Florida? They had none, although they did do Edison Community College a few years back. Their fees, $150,000, flat fee plus expenses. Next was Wheelis Partners. They are very large. They have 9 locations. They've done 12 presidential searches in the past 4 years, 11 of which were state university searches, none in Florida. Flat fee of $99,000 plus expenses. Next was Korn Ferry, one of, if not the largest search firm in the country. They have 20 offices in the United States and several international offices. They did not actually respond directly to the question of how many presidential searches they've done in the past 4 years. They did list 6 as recent, 5 of which were state university searches, none in Florida. And their compensation would be 1/3 of total first-year presidential compensation plus expenses. So that would include base salary, any incentive salary, deferred comp, 1/3 of that. Next is Parker Search, a firm that is well known to folks at UCF. We've used them quite a bit, including our provost, our football coach, our basketball coach, and our athletics director. They have one office based in Atlanta, Georgia. They've done 20 searches in the past 4 years, 17 of which were state university searches. They recently did, a few years ago, did the FAU presidential search, so they do have one state university in Florida. And their fee is $150,000 flat fee plus expenses. R. William Funk, based out of Dallas, Texas. They again did not respond directly to our request about searches in the past 4 years. They did state, however, that they have done 2/3 of all AAU state university presidential searches. They did not list specifically how many of those, state university searches they've done other than that, or number of searches in Florida. Their fee is $120,000 flat fee plus expenses. And then finally, AGB Search, which is a subsidiary of the Association for Governing Boards, located in Washington, D.C. They have done 19 presidential searches in the past 4 years, 12 of which were state university searches. None have been in Florida, with the exception of they're currently doing Seminole State College. And their fee is $100,000 plus expenses.
Good. Scott, thank you.
Sir.
Are there any questions for Scott before we get into discussion on this while he's with us at the restaurant?
Scott, excuse me, Mr. Chairman. Scott, the AAU search criteria that was listed with Funk, did we get a response from any of the others about AAU versus
We did not.
whoever?
We did not.
I don't think we should limit ourselves, is all I'm thinking.
Absolutely.
I think
Absolutely.
this is one of those jobs that anybody's going to be interested in, and we ought to make sure we're welcoming to anybody that wants to. So, okay.
Scott, just a quick search online showed me that we did have a UF and an FSU search fairly recently. Both of those firms are not in our packet. Have they not
Well,
applied?
no, actually, the FSU search was R. William Funk, but that was more than 4 years ago.
But that was a failed search, and then they had to hire somebody else.
That was a failed search. As you recall, there was sort of a revolt by the faculty senate, and they actually had a vote of no confidence in Mr. Funk, and he withdrew from the search.
Okay, so Storbeck, Pimental, and Greenwood have not applied for our...
No, they have not.
Okay, our task now be to chat at length about this. Scott, thank you for the overview. I'd like to invoke a brief moment of chairman's privilege to provide some overview leading into our discussion and some ideas on how we'd like to proceed with this. What I'd propose we do is, at the time of voting, have a package of 3 firms that we vote on at one time, as opposed to on a one-by-one basis, and voting 6 times. And hopefully in that way we could reach a consensus. My own thoughts on the matter, all the proposals we received were fairly comprehensive and good ones, some excellent. In my own case, I looked for 3 things, and one of the things that stands out is really probably not the most important is the money. We're in a range here of, given the momentous nature of what we're setting about to do, the budgetary constraint here presented by all 6 proposals is not really meaningful in my own personal view. So that doesn't create a large difference between the proposals. But more importantly, the completeness of the proposals that we received. Did they give us the information, and were they responsive to the questions that we raised? And then, very importantly, recent and historic presidential searches. Have these firms actually engaged specifically in large university presidential search, as opposed to staff level searches and other activities? And have they worked with institutions similar to our size and scope? And finally, how they fit with our diversity, transparency, and culture, being very important to us. Looking at the proposals in some depth, my own thoughts in respect to form, fit, and function. The academic search and Wheely's proposals, I personally didn't feel were the strongest, and my own thought was to look at eliminating those 2. So that would leave, in my mind, 4. And again, we're going to discuss this at length, so these are my views. That Funk has very clear history of extensive involvement nationally in presidential searches. Parker Search brings to us tremendous familiarity with the university, a lot of engagement with us over many successfully executed searches on behalf of the university. A lot of good knowledge of the Sunshine Law and how we migrate through that within the state. So Parker stood out. And of course, Korn Ferry with their national, probably the largest firm, but a comprehensive executive search firm engaged in commerce, industry, not-for-profits, collegiate work, hospital, very, very broad range of international clients that they have, being a very strong potential here. The AGB proposal, while very thorough, I think a little bit short of the three that I mentioned, being Funk, Parker, and Korn Ferry. So those are my own thoughts, and at this point I'd like to open for detailed discussion.
Just a question, Mr. Chairman. Scott, I noticed that the state university searches in Florida are Edison Community College, FAU, and Seminole State, which are fine institutions, but I think we're thinking a little bit differently. So the question I have is, amongst the others and amongst them, do we have some examples of some of the larger universities, the more prominent national universities, searches that were done beyond those three? I mean,
yeah, there were, well, actually, Wheelis had done a lot of state universities, a fairly good size, and then Parker has done a lot. They're mostly state universities. They tend to do quite a few larger ones.
Examples like who?
Okay, so Parker's done Tennessee, Oregon, Iowa, and then FAU. Funk did Arizona, Kansas, Auburn, Rutgers. AGB did LSU, New Mexico State, and Idaho. And then Korn Ferry did Texas A&M, Penn State, University of Michigan, and San Diego State.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman.
Scott, this is Conrad here. If I may,
Yes, Conrad.
Are there any search firms that did not respond to the RFP that we feel strongly that we may want to? I mean, of course, we have a process and they didn't respond, but I just want to make sure that we are not excluding anyone that we feel strongly about.
We only had two firms that did not, well, they responded by saying they weren't going to respond because they basically had too much work going on. So there wasn't anybody outside those two firms.
Got it.
Mr. Chairman.
I'm curious. Oh, I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman, I went through and I read through all the proposals too, and actually came up, I think, with the same three that you did. I had identified Korn Ferry mainly because of their global reputation. I had selected Parker because of their UCF connection and their familiarity of our culture, which is obviously very important to our search. And then the third one, and by the way, they were all excellent. So, but the third one that I picked was Funk because of their experience selecting a number of high-profile university presidents. My concern with Funk, though, was in a for-profit search, you generally cannot recruit somebody who you've placed. So they've placed so many high-profile presidents at top-tier universities. I don't know if that eliminates a whole group of people that they would not be able to pursue for us. But excellent proposal. So those were the three, for what it's worth, that I had thought were the top tier.
Other comments, observations, thoughts on the?
I was curious, Mr. Chair, was there any comment from FAU on the quality of the search when they work with Parker?
Not familiar with any detailed feedback, Scott, and nothing.
No, it was successful.
I do know that FAU, I think Anthony Barber there is one of his 3 or 4 references, so that's probably a good sign.
Positive sign.
They did an excellent job of picking the president, so, and Parker clearly knows the university very, very well also. Just one more on Funk. I was curious also, because the FSU was a failed search, is there any feedback on why that was, considering the history that they have and the number of presidents they have placed in large universities?
Scott, I'll let you comment on that in some depth.
Well, that was a very odd situation at FSU. There was a strong difference of opinion at the time, among the faculty and the administration about the desirability of having a former politician serve as president. And so they had done, the faculty had again done basically a non-support resolution for the search firm, which I'd never seen before. They had alleged that they thought it was sort of the fix was in, as they say. I don't know if there's any merit to that at all. They're a very large, successful firm, and I understand that the relationships are actually very good between the faculty and the current president, Mr. Thrasher. So I'm not sure that was accurate at the time. It was just sort of a gut reaction. So I would not draw a overall conclusion from that particular search. They're a very good firm.
Mr. Cole, just while you're there, back to my question earlier, do you know if Funk would be precluded from recruiting any of the presidents that they've put into their current positions? Do you know if that works the same? And in the for-profit world, if a headhunter or recruiter places someone, just ethically, they're bound from going back and recruiting them out of that job that they put them in. Is that the case?
I'm not familiar with that. That's not, I can tell you that's not a contractual provision that we've had in our search firm contracts, so that may be more of an ethical thing with the firms. I don't know, but contractually they can do that.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I can add a little bit to the history of the role of Funk in the FSU search, since I was on the Board of Governors as a faculty representative when the search was ongoing. And I don't think there's anything that they did to rule themselves out of any of the other searches. It wasn't their fault in this particular case. It was just the process and the role they played in putting forth someone's name. So it's not the search firm in this case that should be considered to be responsible for that difference in opinion.
I mean, it's a good point. I think it's important also to characterize, I mean, as we see this, the role of the search firm / consultant, really to provide guidance to the process, provide the heavy lifting in terms of the promotion of potential candidates, but not actually to make the decision. You know, we have Chairman Marchena described, we're in a bit of a marathon. All due respect, should not be a very long one, but a marathon of number of handoffs here of scope in this activity. They have a role, but it's a supportive role, and then detailed administration of the process of gathering candidates and then bringing information about them. But importantly, we have a role. Our role ends at a certain point. We hand off a list of 3 to 5 to the, hopefully, to the board. The board has a role, and then the Board of Governors has a role. So there's a variety of handoffs. The firm has important duties, but is not the decision maker. And I think you've laid out maybe some details of where they're really not the decision maker in the process. So,
Chairman, excuse me, Scott, you remind me, why wouldn't Funk list how many presidential searches that they've done? This is not stated. Do we have any idea why they wouldn't?
You know, I just got the sense that it was maybe more of a canned response that they send out, and maybe they didn't read our request for information as thoroughly as they could have.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to add on to that I didn't look at how much they charged. I looked at love, and the two that didn't respond to a simple question like 4 years, who have you placed? I can't imagine that they're going to be the ones who are going to love us the most and get us the most bang for our buck.
Also, in terms of priority, do we know the current workload of the consultants that we'd be working with from the top 3 that you've recommended?
Well, none of them have expressed any apprehension about the ability to carry out this search and do all the heavy lifting. It looks like, based on our knowledge of them, they're all large enough and have had the breadth before to handle concurrent searches, which they're all doing. So we've heard nothing that would preclude any of them from being able to carry out this search on a timely and comprehensive basis. The two that declined obviously have issues, and that's very respectable that they stepped forward and said they can't deal with the workload at this time. It was primary rationale that they provided. Any other comments, observations?
I found the Funk proposal to be very in-depth, although maybe they didn't directly answer the past 4 years. There was a pretty comprehensive list of some that they have successfully completed either in presidency or chancellors for the past 6 months, including University of Arizona and Auburn. So I think I was very impressed with, this one stood out, the Funk, to me. The one, black mark maybe or negative was the whole FSU incident, and that was a whole different level of I think, involvement. So I feel more comfortable about, on the little list Scott provided us, the Funk not having a clear answer as to the number of presidential searches in the past 4 years there versus, I'm sorry, no, that was the Korn Ferry, I guess. Yeah.
Like being listed in that company, however, the UCF, Auburn, Arizona State, that's where we should be fishing, it seems to me. Just to be clear, Mr. Chairman, did you say that the three that you were recommending were Korn Ferry, Parker, and Funk? Were those the three?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, this is Conrad here. I'm generally fine with Funk, Parker, and Korn Ferry. Actually, I had in my short list, I had Parker and Funk and Wheelers, but either way is fine. I think that as long as the board does a little bit more research on this, and I would assume that they would probably interview them and get some responses to the questions that we are asking, because they are valid questions and concerns about them in general. But in terms of the short list, I'm fine with those three.
Yeah, Conrad, thank you. And just to clarify, the process would be that after our recommendation of three, the chairman will be very involved with discussing with each of the three more comprehensively their background, their experience and resume, and their proposal in depth. So there is more that occurs after our deliberations on the due diligence on the three that we'll recommend.
Well, and under the rules, I think he'll also be consulting with the Board of Trustees on that as well. I think that's written as part of the process, and then make the final decision.
Yeah. Although it is, based on the process, it is his final, there won't be a vote of the Board of Trustees. It's his final decision.
It says that they'll be in consultation.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
Well, and I think Marcos said he was going to make that decision by Wednesday afternoon if possible.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, on Korn Ferry, if I look at their proposal, essentially there are 4 presidents that they have placed inside their proposals, and they are high-level institutions, Massachusetts Systems or A&M, Texas A&M. However, I think the success of the search firm depends upon their contacts and their ability to communicate with people that are out there, which I believe Funk does to an extreme level the other way. So I'm wondering if Korn Ferry, while they're very successful in the corporate environment, is the right search firm for an academic search at this point.
Yeah, my own thought, looking at maybe 3, which is our charge to develop recommendation, short list of 3, gears on the experience with us. Then another aspect, depth in specific successfully executed presidential searches at the university level, major university level. But then finally, I kind of looked at the broad perspective of being a multinational global firm that really has, a large global reach in terms of access to leaders of all types and varieties, not just in the university space, being a useful maybe alternative to provide the chairman. So that is kind of a way to look at this. And agreeing with prior comments that the money's not material to the importance of the decision. So with that said, be happy to entertain a motion to advance three names of search firms.
Mr. Chairman, I'll be happy to make a motion that we advance to Chair Marchena, Korn, Ferry, Parker, and Funk as the three search firms.
Second.
Are there any other comments or observations for discussion?
So as we go further down the road, I understand in the presidential search, we're not to rank the candidates.
Right.
But in this condition, we weren't advised such. Would you make a recommendation that we rank these candidates?
Process requires that they be unranked, so we'll have to follow that.
Thank you, Scott. So with that, I'd like to suggest we put for a vote, all in favor of the motion to select the three firms mentioned by Trustee Jurgen. We'll vote at this time. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. So with that, the motion is passed to narrow down the field of candidate search firms to Korn Ferry, Parker, and Funk. Those will be passed along to the chairman for his consideration. Okay, I'd like to, the motion is passed, so I'd like to mention the, our charge again in the coming weeks and months will be as a team to listen to faculty, students, staff, alumni, and the broader community. As Chairman Marchena mentioned, this is meant to be and will be an open and inclusive process. Also to work with the search firm that we ultimately select, Chairman Marchena ultimately selects to ensure a thorough and timely search. And interview semifinalists and recommend at least 3 finalists to be considered by the Board of Trustees. Now, in the act of developing our schedule of activities over the next few months, we are looking forward to the search firm, whichever one is selected, who have extensive experience in doing these searches, to collaborate with us on a process of detailed schedule and activities meeting our key principles. So we'll be very soon able to consult with them on how to structure a process that we can all ensure will be thorough and also timely. So just reminding you, once they're picked and once we've had our first meeting with them, if we have any contact by interested parties in this key role, that is president of UCF, we'll be forwarding those to the search firm as the single point contact for coordination of dealing with expressions of interest in the role. And they'll also have, very close awareness of our sunshine law requirements and how to best formulate a process certainly around that as well. So we've had a steady trajectory of growth here. We've got multiple institution defining initiatives underway. I mentioned the Ignite campaign, the medical center moving ahead now actively, the downtown campus we're in the middle of building. So this is the fact of getting this done right is just essentially important, and with appropriate speed of action. So with that, only mention the importance of this in my own life. I was very pleased to have very recently my 4th within my own family graduate candidate be accepted into school here. So once Mark graduates, I'll have in my family, my immediate family, 4 UCF graduate degrees and 4 undergraduate degrees from UCF. So major personal commitment. The impact Dr. Hitt has had on the community at large, on the state, and now nationally, with our research preeminence being unquestioned. Oh, by the way, I don't think any of us have missed, we're now number 13 in the one poll 12, another poll 13, the AP poll in National Collegiate Division I football rankings. We can go on and on with accomplishments, but we have a lot to be proud of here, a lot of great impact. So with that, our next meeting will be December 4th at 2 p.m. In the Student Union. We'll come back with the exact room, parking information, and agenda for that meeting. Again, we're hoping to be able to meet the search firm selected in that meeting and go through schedule in a little bit more granular detail. Put that on your calendars. We're anticipating a timeline, again, being developed in the meeting as another important step in the process. So we've asked Grant to notify the broader community, us on the committee, the board, and the broader community as soon as the search firm has been finalized, the selection. And we'll move ahead with inquiries of interest from outside parties for the role beginning at that time. So before we conclude today, any further questions from the committee? Yes, Linda.
This might be for Grant. I've been contacted by the media asking me what I'm looking for in a new president. What do I do?
I think it's generally how we conduct this on the Board of Trustees would extend down to this. As a committee member, you would have the search chair speaks for the committee, and then Dave, you and I would talk about how best to respond, I would think.
Yeah, in conjunction with the board chairman. Generally, we've...
So do I just ignore them or tell them to contact you?
What I would suggest is if you get an email or a phone call, just have them call me.
Okay.
And that the board chair speaks on behalf of the committee.
Thanks.
Mr. Chairman, I wondered if we might receive a copy of the presentation delivered by Nancy Myers.
Yes, absolutely. Yep. We'll make that certainly available to the committee. Anything else? Again, thank you once again.
Chair, I do want you to know, Mr. Chair, I do want you to know the live feed has worked extremely well, and I feel like I've actually been in the room with you guys.
But you haven't been visited by the Ignite campaign chair, so we'll be calling you.
Thank you in advance for that, Governor Kitson. Okay, with that, I think we'll be adjourned today. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.